Welcome to the Beyond Divorce Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. We are back and we have Armando in the chair. This time though, Armando, you're going to be interviewing me, aren't you?
I think so.
I love it. So Armando's going to be asking me the questions and I'll be doing the responding. However, I do love it when we just collaborate and go talk right through it together. So, but I'll let you lead me and it'll be an awesome deal. So what we're doing is, how do I co-parent? The question is, how do I co-parent with someone that I do not trust?
So when you brought this title to me, my immediate response was like, oh, because we've definitely been working with families, or I have, and I know you have, and sometimes together with families where there is no trust between them and the co-parent. And that was actually came up in the last podcast, or in wherever this falls in the line of podcasts that I had with Dr. Robinson not too long ago. So shout out to Jacoby. That
friend of the
pod, Dr. Robinson. Friend of the pod, Dr. Robinson. But trust, I think, is such a huge, important piece in any family system. And when there's when there's just no trust, it just causes difficulty.
I get the sense that you're like, ooh, heavy topic, but a good one.
Oh, it's a very good topic.
Okay. Well, it's just because it's a common thread, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, for many people that are in divorce. And I think there's two things that I've learned that have consistently have come up in divorce with people is past hurts, right? So that's that fear, right? I don't get hurt again or be vulnerable, then you hurt me. Or, and then there's the lack of trust. And that lack of trust can look like many things. Like they have an agenda, it's hidden, they're alienating me. They don't ever follow through with the things they say they're going to do. And so, now they want to be super parent. You know, you get that one a lot. So this trusting that there's an authenticness.
Mm-hmm. You've not been here for the last 5 years, 10 years, and now you want to be a parent.
Well, I've actually heard that said exactly like that. So I'm just wondering. We hear a lot of the same thing.
I have heard that. Not pretty recently. I've heard that exact piece.
So what we're really telling you, listeners, is there's a common thread amongst families of divorce. And we want to help you capture that and say, you don't have to get caught into the common threads. We want you to be uncommonly common.
Uncommonly common?
Yeah, like you make being uncommon to everyone else your common. Like that's your new way.
So you be the exception.
Yes. We love that word here in therapy, don't we?
We do love the exception.
The exceptions, the unique outcomes, as they used to say in narrative work. So love that stuff. Okay. So that's the topic. How do I co-parent with someone I don't trust? And I have 3 different topic areas I think are important to review on that. But I'm going to let you take it from here, Armando, and start wherever you'd like with that.
So I guess when we're talking about not trust, right? Because again, I'm a big trust guy, right? Mm-hmm. For our listeners, the trust formula is kind of something I use a lot, which is just real quick reminder, right?
Yes, please do.
It is consistency plus predictability multiplied over time equals trust. So like we were talking about is that takes a lot of looking back at things. Like you said, past hurts, because you're looking at that consistency, you're looking at that predictability, and now it's changed up. So how, when someone questions that, Michael, if I have a co-parent and they're doing something a little bit different, what would you want them to do? What would you want that co-parent to do? Or what would you suggest that they do whenever they're looking back at the past and their past isn't matching up these behaviors that this new co-parent is saying, but I know I need to trust that person, or they're asking me to trust that person, or the therapist in the room is telling me to trust that person, or the court is mandating
that I trust this person.
What would you have them do?
I think there's two things that have to happen. I think for the person that's struggling trusting the other parent is really going to need that other parent to validate their point of view.
Oh, okay.
They crave a validation from the other. So if I'm the parent who's struggling trusting my co-parent, okay, I would hope that the other parent would give me a way to validate my fear of trusting them and be like, I want to go through layers of history that I've experienced so that they have an understanding of why I'm struggling trusting them in the first place. And needing them to validate and go, I can see. I had a client do this yesterday. I see how you could see it that way. That is perfect. Because what you're saying is, I now understand the perspective in which you have. I don't agree with it, but I can see the perspective.
I can see where it's coming from.
Correct. And that's that validation of, I would require, I think I'm just speaking as the parents I've worked with, it seems as if there's a requirement of, I need them to understand why I'm struggling trusting them in the first place. And so I want them to validate our history.
So to validate what you're saying,
yes,
right? Something very similar this week happened where I had a parent where there was an incident that occurred and the other parent kind of filed a protective order to get them out of what they deemed was unsafe, was a concerning thing with the other children in the home. And the other parent came and said, you stole my son from me. I reached out to you for help. This was going on, and you stole my son from me. And consistently, you do that whenever my other children are involved.
Yeah.
And so that was the narrative that they had in their head. And I looked to this other parent and I said, so their point of view is this. I kind of, rephrased what they said. And I asked, what are your thoughts on that? And the other parent said, hearing what they're saying, I can understand where that comes from.
Wow.
But that is not my intention. That has never been my intention. My intention is for the safety of our son.
Yes. And see, that's workable because then as a therapist, we could come in and say, if in the event this were to happen in the future, how are you hoping they could respond differently? I wish they would have talked to me first about it or said, I'm really concerned about their safety. I'm not sure how we're going to solve this. It's almost like I wish there was a collaborative piece built in. Here's what parents don't realize. If me, the parent, is afraid to trust the other parent to collaborate with them, right? However, if something goes wrong in my home and the kid goes to their house, don't I want that collaboration?
Absolutely.
So you really crave the thing you're not willing to give.
Well, because it's fear, right? Like it's fear.
Bingo.
It's a fear-based response.
Correct.
It's a control response.
So here's what I told. I actually had a conversation with someone I'm really close to this morning. And as I was talking through things with them, I said, I've noticed something about human people, about just nature of people. And one of the things I learned is you're never actually fighting with someone, ever. You're actually fighting with something within yourself that is being projected out through the relationship with this someone. So let me give you an example. In this person's particular story, they found there's a pattern of their relationships of when they struggle. It's always fear-based because they're told things like, oh, well, if you do that, they're not going to like you. Or how are you going to pay that bill if you do X? And how are you going to... So they would argue with these people and they would get into it with all these different people, not realizing that it's the same thread, which is fear.
Response.
Fear,
it's a fear response.
Yeah. So really, I said, if you woke up this morning, I said, this morning you just woke up. If today you decided you were fearless, how would your life be different? You should have seen all the different responses in every relationship. With my kid, I would be this way. With my parent, I would be this way. With my ex, I'd be this way. And I kind of laughed and I said, so you're really not fighting them. You're fighting the fear within yourself.
It's deep.
I know, right, brother? Well, think about it, though. I mean, that's self-reflection. The real fight of trust, your inability to trust them may be part of the behavior and things you experience with them. But the fear you have is really within you. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes total sense.
Okay.
Is that it's my fear, it's my unknowing that is causing the friction, right? It's my assumption that's creating that. So
going back to your original question is, remember I said there's two things I think I'd have to do if I'm the co-parent that doesn't trust the other parent. The first one is I want that validation from them as saying, now I see perspective. I see how you cannot trust me for all those reasons you've listed in the past. So I think that's step one. The second thing I'd want to be able to do is I'd have to be able to be vulnerable. which was me saying to them, I want to trust you. I'm afraid to trust you. And these are the outcomes I'm afraid that we'll end up with. If I choose to trust you, this is what I'm fearful will happen. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And the co-parent then in return says, how can I help build the confidence in you so that you would begin to believe?
Help me help you.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think that's what happens is we're reacting to the fear, but we're not having a conversation about the fear.
So what strikes me by that is just, it's funny because you're saying that and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's great. But if they were able to do that, would they be exes or would they be able to do that? That's the struggle, because you want me to be vulnerable and you want me to help you. You want me to help me help you.
Yeah.
Well, we could have done that. Would we? So but I think the difference here is that if we're focused on the kid, my hope would be for listeners and for anybody is that you're able to do that for the children, right? You're able to.
Well, when you're divorced, it's supposed to be about the kids and not about each other anymore. Right,
supposed
but
to be.
The each other part is for the kid, because what does the kid really want? Well, you know what kids really want?
Both parents.
They want they want to be able to be loved by both their parents and their parents to get along.
They want permission to love both parents.
Yes,
and they would hope that both their parents would not,
get along.
glare at each other.
Correct.
And say unseemly words and threaten to run them over when they're in the car.
Parents are at peace, and parents get along.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that simple. So if you really love your children, that's how you get there for them. Create peace. Do your part. Create peace, right? And love the kid. And that's how the kid knows. And so going back to something I was thinking earlier about, my brain runs like 100 miles an hour, but thinking about these situations, what we work with this fear of trust and having trouble working with your co-parent because of that trust. There is a layer of vulnerability that you have to have if you're going to have a good conversation. Because here's what I was going to say earlier. Another thread or pattern when it comes to relationships is, what do couples that are doing marital counseling, so they're not divorced, they're afraid, they're leaning on divorce, like we're getting to divorce, we got to fix our marriage. What do they always say they need to work on?
Communication.
And what do co-parents, divorced parents, say the issue is between them?
Well, they don't talk to me. They don't tell me anything.
Communication.
Mm-hmm.
They have problems communicating. And so the thread of all relationships comes down to the ability to do what?
To communicate effectively.
Correct. And so part of effective communication is authentic communication, vulnerable communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what I've learned. Even if I'm afraid to trust you, right, it doesn't take away what you're going to do anyway.
Because you're going to do whatever you want.
If you have an agenda against me and I'm afraid to trust you being vulnerable because you're going to use it against me, you're going to use it against me regardless. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of when you know it. Do you know it now? Do you know it later? It doesn't matter. If your goal is to hurt me, you're not going to ask me permission before you hurt me. You're going to do it anyway.
You're going to find a way one way or another.
100%. So what difference does it make?
So I guess my question for that is, how do I communicate effectively but still be vulnerable? But I mean, how would you? Because I'm sitting here listening to that, and I see, I agree with you 100% that the communication is so. I was thinking about co-parents I was talking to the other day, and the communication and using the app close or the Our Family Wizard communication, and it was to that point. Anything I say in the past, they've used against me. So why do I say anything? So how do we get somebody to be vulnerable and communicate when they are terrified?
Because it's not what you do that matters, it's who I am.
Speak to that.
I will never control what someone does. If I had control of what people did, I wouldn't have a job. I could literally sit down right now. You and I both can do this. You know we could. We could literally sit down with people who are truly interested in how to make things better for their kids and their divorce, and we could literally probably just tell them. We know what kids want. We know the roles that kids play. We know what things hurt them. We know what things help them.
Right.
They're patterns. I could literally just tell it to you, but you won't do it.
No.
That's why you keep paying me every week or every other week or once a month to continue to help you find that same answer that I already have. So that you can go, oh, the light bulb goes off for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what therapy is about, isn't it? It's about
really
helping people find their light bulb.
It's helping them get on the path, like directing them on their own path.
Yeah. So to answer your question is, how can I become vulnerable with someone who's going to use it against me or has a pattern of using it against me? What you do is you say, it doesn't matter what they do with it because they're going to do it anyway, whether I give them permission or not. Remembering that. let it go.
Hmm.
What you say instead is, I want to take every opportunity to try to make this really work. And to do that, I have to let go. I don't try to control outcomes. No, I'm no longer interested in controlling outcomes. I'm only interested in presenting what could ultimately help us achieve the ultimate goal, which is to better serve our children in divorce or to better serve our co-parenting relationship.
Which is such a mind flip, especially for some of our clients that come from court and litigation when it's all about outcome.
Yes.
It is all about, I want this possession schedule, or I want these rights, or I want to take away these rights.
Yes. As much as attorneys might hate me saying this, the more you go to court, the harder the job is to get back where you really should start for in the first place. And the reason is because all court's going to do is open up all your wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Court is a place where, pardon my language, court is a place where you get to talk about your shit.
Yeah.
You're not talking about resolution at court. You're talking about problem at court. And you're going to go on the stand and you're going to rip that person because the attorney's going to go, tell me how horrible this jerk is. Tell me how horrible this woman is, or whatever. That's what they're doing when they put you on the stand. You're not telling the good side of them. You're not talking about the times that they did the pickups or the drop-offs or the exceptions. All the things we do completely opposite in therapy, which is, well, at some point in time, you must have assumed they were a pretty good dad. Y'all were married for 10 years. Why'd you have kids with them? You know, we might ask a question like that, but they may not ask you that in court. Tell me how horrible he's been over the last 10 years, right?
They typically don't ask
that's what I'm saying.
question.
That's what I'm saying.
Sitting here thinking, you're right. They don't.
So here's what's amazing though, and I have to give another shout out to the legal team of people, of attorneys that I've worked with, because I've worked with some amazing attorneys. It's those collaborative ones that say, hey, look, I will go in and do my job and we can have the throw in mud fest. However, behind the scenes, they're interested in how do I help this family not need me anymore.
So to your point, what's interesting is like that scenario I was talking about where that one parent said, well, you tried to take them away from me. And then he was like, well, it's about safety. And then the other parent turned around and said, but then you had your attorney call me and they were really mean and they kind of threatened me. And me being who I am kind of was like, well, that's their job. That's what they do. I mean, to the attorney's point is that's exactly what he paid them to do. How effective was it? It just ripped them even further away. And now they've been dealing with this for years and they're in my office.
That's right.
Which, had they just picked up the phone or sent a nice message on the app, what a different outcome it would be.
Hey, our kiddo came to me. Now notice the first word I used there.
Ours.
Our kiddo. It's a collaborative, right? We, using words like that. Our kiddo came to me and said that they're experiencing this in your home and they feel a little unsafe. And I want to know, how do you want to solve this? Let me, that's one of my favorite. I'm going to give this little tidbit to people. One of the best things I've ever learned in collaborative co-parenting, or ones you want to build trust in, quit trying to solve the problems by yourself. Why don't you ask your co-parent, how do we solve this? Watch them come up with ideas for you. And then if you don't like the idea, you go, what else? Until you find one to like. And then if you want to offer something in return to them, like maybe you have a suggestion, don't say, are you willing? Because they feel like they're giving something up. Ask them if they'd be opposed. Would you be opposed to doing this or trying this? Would you be against trying this? That works way better than are you willing? Because when I'm mad at you, I'm not willing to do a damn thing for you.
Because I don't trust you.
Correct. So would you be opposed? Is much better than are you willing?
Well, then you're giving them the power to say no.
Yes.
And that's what they're craving anyways.
The people want to maintain their autonomy.
Yes.
To maintain autonomy, I have to have the ability to say no. When you give me the freedom to say no, I want to give you the yes. Are you opposed?
I'm more likely to give the yes.
Yes, correct. Are you against? Are you opposed? Would you be against? So here's what I'll go back to. When you're trying to solve a problem with a co-parent, so we're going into the communication section. When you're trying to solve a problem with your co-parent that you don't trust, it's okay to say to them, how do we solve this? That's my question. That's my go-to question. How do we solve this? I've literally had clients sit in session and they will not let me take them anywhere into resolution land. I can't take them into solution-focused land, as we used to call it, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll just sit there and watch. I'm complaint after complaint after complaint after complaint, and I'll say, what would be better instead? What would you like instead?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll lead me there, and they'll go right back to the complaints. So then I'll just look at them when I'm literally gassed out, and I'll say, how do we solve this? And I get two responses. I either get all these cool ideas, or I get, well, I don't know, you're the therapist.
Oh, that's what we pay you for. That was the first one that came to my mind.
And then you know what I say when they do that? When are you going to let me help you?
Hmm.
And then they go, what do you mean? I said, well, you've told me about all the issues. I've asked you some questions, but you keep going back to the issues. So at what point will you allow me to help you?
So it goes back to that self-reflection of getting over that being...
You have to allow me to be a collaborative piece in the solution building with you.
Yeah.
Because if I'm asking you, I'm trusting that you have the solution by saying, how do we solve this? And you say, no, I'm paying you to do that. Then you're going to have to let go, aren't you? And you're going to have to let me do it, which means I'm going to have to go, then do this. And you're going to have to go, ooh, I don't want to do that. Then you really don't want the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
See, now there's accountability to it. This is what I think most parents in co-parenting want. They want accountability, don't they?
Which goes back to the very first step that you were saying, right? Like I need that accountability that yes, these things happened. That was not my intention, or this is how my perspective on it. But I do own how that made you feel.
Yes.
I do own my actions on that.
There you go. You got it, brother. Yeah. I think the greatest vulnerable thing you can do is taking accountability for your own stuff.
For everything.
Yeah,
I think
you want to make them be accountable for theirs. Well, the way you do that is you have to be accountable for yours.
what's really interesting about that is, again, that I was thinking to somebody. I had a parent session a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that came up was that both parents agreed that they wanted the child to be more accountable for their actions. Well, as we were talking, then it came to the way they communicate, and are they accountable to how they communicate with each other? And it was just really interesting in terms of, do what I say, not as I do, kind of parenting. And I reflected on it afterwards, because I was reading my notes and getting ready for my session with the child individually. And I laughed to myself, because I was like, well, that's funny that you guys want that and you can't do that. So that was comical to me.
They want what they're not doing, is what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah. So it's almost like one of the greatest gifts that you can give someone is modeling what you want from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, instead of asking for something from someone, model it to them. Like, if I want my kids to become givers, like I want my kids to give, they have to see me give.
You have to show them.
Correct. I have to show them. They will become more like who I am based on what they saw, not what I said. My grandfather smoked a cigarette right in front of me and would tell me not to smoke. My grandmother is the one that really got me caught up, and no one needs to go call CPS, but I'll tell you what my grandma did.
She made you smoke a whole...
No, she didn't do that. So my grandpa's telling me not to smoke. He's smoking. I'm interested in smoking. I mean, obviously, kids are curious, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to smoke at some point. So I'm telling my grandma's in there cutting coupons. Remember the days of cutting coupons? Okay.
You still do on your app.
Oh, my gosh, no. I'm talking about with scissors, bro.
Oh, no, yeah, but I mean, you can still do it nowadays.
Okay, my grandma's got the magazines and Target ads and Kmart or whoever. Long story. Remember Kmart? Yeah. So she's cutting these coupons out, and she's smoking a cigarette. She didn't really smoke that much. Every now and then with my grandpa, she'd have a cigarette here and there. So we're talking, and I told my grandma I want to smoke one day. So she's kind of like my grandpa. She's like, no, that's not a good idea for you. So anyway, long story short, she says, you really want to do that, huh? I said, yeah. So she hands me her cigarette and says, go for it. Now I'm like probably 9 years old, somewhere in that age. I don't know, somewhere in there, between 8 and 10 maybe. She hands me the cigarette. She goes, go for it. And I looked at her, I thought she was kidding. I was like, if I take it, she's going to slap me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She goes, I thought it was a setup.
This is a trick.
It's a trick.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. And I asked her, verdad? Like truthfully? And she's like, yeah. So I grab the cigarette. I take a puff. I cough my head off. I'm choking. I'm losing it, bro. My grandma's just looking at me, and she goes, go for it, mas, do more.
Yeah.
I said, absolutely not. That was the last time. I never smoked anything, bro, since that day. Now, was that probably the greatest parenting? I don't know. However, what I will say is it sure did deter me.
You remembered it.
Oh, boy, I'm telling the story. I remembered it. I will just say that modeling, right, experiential is always the greatest tool of learning. Because all the parents that come see us that don't trust their co-parents are always going to base it off an experience, and that's their why.
So what's really interesting about that is you're talking about modeling, and this goes back to a conversation that Jacoby and I were having. But if we don't trust each other as co-parents, you think that kid is going to trust us? You think that kid is going to trust the other parents? What do you think they're getting that from?
They're alienating me.
They're alienating.
However, if you go back to the root of it, you have no trust for each other. Why would you expect your kid to trust either of you then?
And that's, and I think you've seen me do this, but like in parent sessions, very early on, my first question is, how much do you trust each other? 0 to 10, scale it. And very quickly I'm going to know how much work we're going to need to do depending on how low that trust is.
Yeah.
And typically when they get to us, it's pretty low. And that immediately lets me know, okay, this is what's going on.
What will it cost you? It's one of my favorite questions. What will it cost you to continue to not trust one another?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Let's just say you stay here, because I can tell if you don't trust each other, I'm likely going to be a good guesser and say you're fearful to trust each other. You know you both should, but you're afraid to. Let's keep you there. I can't take away your fear. I can only increase your confidence. Okay? I mean, nobody can take away fear, but we can increase confidence. I had a conversation with Jen about that too earlier. So then you go back and say, what would it cost? What's the cost if we stay here? If it stays exactly as it is right now,
what's going to happen?
What will it cost you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then they start going, oh, right? Some of them may go, it didn't cost me nothing. That person's not moving, bro.
It's an old motivational interviewing technique, actually. That's what that is.
Tell them about it.
It's that question in terms of if nothing changes and it stays the same, what does it cost you? If something were to change, what would that look like? And you kind of work through the exercise with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that is a little bit of motivational interviewing.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll tell you a really cool thing, Armando, that happened. I watched a video of a guy. He was a salesman, okay? But he had a cool question. He's a scaling question. He said, if you were going to buy this product, right, and let's say 10 is I'm buying, right? 1 is this guy's a 0. This guy's whack. I got to get away from this guy as quick as possible. Where are we right now on you purchasing this product? And he says, say the guy says a 5. You go, great. Why isn't it a 1? Because now they're going to tell you all the reasons why, like you've achieved this 5. Like I've earned this trust in you to at least get me to 5, which I love. It's so backwards from the questions. We usually just say, well, what's a 6? But going back and going, why not a 1? Right? It's a beautiful question. Then you get to flip it and go, okay, so what, watch this. So what are you afraid of happening that keeps us from being a 10?
Get to the fear of it.
Exactly, because that's what's generating the majority of what we do and don't do. Because remember, most decisions are made based in faith and fear, right?
Pleasure, pain, right?
100%. That's the driving force for most of our decision making, faith or fear. One of those two is driving the bus every time for the decisions we make. So this, how do I co-parent with someone I don't trust? How do I co-parent with someone I'm afraid to trust?
Which that goes into a whole, like, different kind of scenarios and histories of things.
Yep. And so what it really comes down to for most of us, it's the follow through, which is the last part of the topic here. I have learned that the majority of the parents I have helped that have overcome this, they follow this pattern. I'll tell you what the pattern is. They both allow each other to give their perspective, whether they agree with it or not, and they validate it. I can see how you would see it that way, right? Like that one guy did just the other day. Perfect. Both sides get to take a turn to do that. That's step 1. Number 2, what would you need to see different from so-and-so that would help you know we're making progress? And then I just do it to both of them.
So that they both have
They both have, like, this is what I need from them.
This is what I'm looking for.
Blah, 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 blah. And then we talk through that. The last step is the follow through. So what should so-and-so expect to see different when you leave today?
So it goes, not to go back to my formula, but it goes back to that consistency, that predictability over time, right?
The consistency is what I've seen over, right? The predictability is what I can put faith on.
This is what I'm asking to see, and so you're doing this.
And everyone says over time. If you tell me you're a good baseball player and I watch you go up to hit the baseball and you hit it 5 times out of 10, I'm going to go, he hits the ball pretty well, right? If you hit it 1 time out of 10, I'm going to go, I don't know if he's as good a hitter as he thinks, right? So it's watching it over time happen, right? And that ultimately leads to this trust. So let me go back to something with people, so some takeaways here. The title is, how do I co-parent with someone I don't trust? But what it really means is, how do I co-parent with someone I'm afraid to trust? That's really what the question is.
How do I co-parent with fear?
Yes. And so I'm gonna go through this again. Number 1, you have to have the courage to be vulnerable. You have to stop worrying about the outcome. or what their agenda might be or look like.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't going to stop it anyway if they have one. They have an agenda. They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, regardless.
Yes. Number 3, you have to offer to them how things can look different. What's your role in that? If you were able to trust them, how would you be different? That's a great question. We used to ask in therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't trust your co-parent, right? Okay, but if you did, how would you be different? Oh, I would be this, 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 and this. Great, go do that. But I don't trust them. I understand that. But that's why your behavior's changing. How are you any different than them?
Yeah.
They probably don't even trust you. If you don't trust them, it's highly likely they don't trust you either. Just know that. Modeling, remember?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the modeling of that.
Yeah. So
be the co-parent you want to see the other one to be.
have you seen in therapy where when one person became vulnerable, it actually invited the other person to do the same, and they ended up doing it?
100%.
Yeah. So instead of the opposite, which is if I go vulnerable, they're just going to use it to attack me, which they may when they leave the session. However, remember, we can't control the decisions other people make anyway. But when I've seen people become vulnerable in session, it's highly, highly likely that the other side will start doing the same. Because we understand this really cool term in therapy called mirroring.
Yep.
And people mirror things, right?
They do.
If I go up, you go up. If I go down, you'll likely come down.
We have the mirror neurons that they found within the last, 10, 15 years.
Tell me more.
So the mirror neurons are basically, so like when I yawn and you yawn, there's a mirror neuron that like, oh, we're supposed to, so they have found that is a thing that our brains do, so that we try and kind of mirror.
That's cool.
Have you ever met somebody who, like, say somebody has an accent and then they start speaking in a weird accent and you're like, why are you doing that? Like, you don't speak that way. It's that mirror neuron. So
It's doing that.
yeah, it's doing that. 'Cause
Or
you're trying to
emotions do
be-
that same thing?
I think so. I think you can. I mean, how many times have you fed off of somebody? Well, maybe not you, but you fed off somebody's emotions, and
Armando, why do you say maybe not you?
well, I don't know. Maybe you're very emotionally like grounded, and you don't do that. And I am not. When I'm at work, I'm real good at it. But personally, sometimes.
You know what's funny though is it's like the idea of feeding off of energies, isn't it?
But it's kind of that without listeners, whatever you're into. But it is that kind of level of you're feeding off of the vibe, or you're feeding off of somebody's energy or their emotions or their responses. Like we that's why if somebody gets really angry, you come down right here and you kind of talk quietly. What does it do? Calms them.
Correct. Well, I'll say this too real quick. They said they were able to measure, what was it? They were measuring it's almost like an energy field.
Mm-hmm.
A level of the highest level of energy that is ever produced when two people are relating to one another. Do you want to know what it is?
What is it?
The highest that they measure authenticity.
How do you measure authenticity?
I don't know. I got to go back and find it. The research on it. I'll show it to you.
I'd be curious. Yeah.
I don't know. I forgot how they did it, but basically it's like frequencies, like radio waves,
Mhm.
right? So, but because we emote energy, right? Human beings do. And so they're like having people practice things like, okay, two people that are in a really good relationship, but they're like emoting love toward one another, or hate toward one
Mhm.
another, or whatever else. Like you have this energy source going back
Mhm.
and forth. But they found that the highest frequency of energy that people respond to is authenticity. People are driven and connected through authenticness in a relationship. So I'll give you an example. You ever met someone that maybe was a jerk, but they were real?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you're like, I really like that person. You
Yeah,
don't know why you like them. Like they're really not very nice, but man, they just say it as it is. Like,
They're a jerk, but you know where you stand with them.
yeah, it's the authenticity. The authenticness of a person is very powerful. So when you're vulnerable, you're being authentic. Does it make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Vulnerability is a level of authenticity, and that's why I think it's so strong.
It's so hard for some people too.
It's scary.
But I think that's what you were saying. I wrote down courage, and then you brought it back up to that, and you were kind of explaining it again. It does. It goes back to that courage to kind of know, like, okay, this is who I am. I'm going to put it out there. I don't have control over the outcome, but
that's the key takeaway for the listeners is quit trying to control outcomes. You can't control the outcomes. You're in a co-parenting relationship. It requires both of you.
Right.
So don't control the outcome. Control the process.
control what you offer.
Exactly. And you can offer authenticity, vulnerability, right?
Mhm.
You can offer the consistency, predictability. You can offer that what you say and what you do match, right? so that way there's a follow through to what you said. You can offer that, and you can consistently do that over time. And I will promise you, there's a building block in that, and it builds. And so this is, to answer the question, that's how you co-parent with someone that you struggle trusting.
And we're back.
And we're back.
And we got right to it. There it is. Well, Michael, thank you so much. This is it's got my brain going.
Oh, cool.
It's got my brain going. So whoever I have this afternoon, they're going to get like prime therapist Armando going. So
I love it. I love the conversations. I love that we get to have, because it's like I've told the listeners, we have these conversations a lot, but they used to not hear them. And then when we decided to do a podcast, they actually get to hear the stuff we discuss.
Yes.
This is the kind of heaviness of our therapeutic minds and our theoretical minds and our, we see patterns, there's so much that we deal with.
We really do eat and breathe this. I don't know if that makes us nerds or we need to get hobbies, or I don't know, but we do really, we have these conversations in the mornings, at lunch, in the evenings when we're trying to get home. Like, these are conversations we're having.
I don't know how not to do it. I'm just so glad that we get to bring in the world into it and say, here, this hopefully can help you, because that's all we want to put out there is the information that we've had. But I also like it, I'll be honest with you, if it's challenged.
Oh, yeah.
So like, I want our listeners to send in questions or comments or things like that they may find challenging, or that's hard to do, or what, I don't know what that meant. What the heck are you talking about, Michael? That's like way over my head.
Listeners, if you agree, disagree, put it in the comments below. Let us know. Shoot us an email. Whatever. Let us know what you think, so we can kind of address concerns, or hey, that sounds right, that resonated, or I don't know what y'all are talking about.
So Ariana the other day said, there was a question I wish you would have asked this couple you're working with, co-parents. I said, what's that? She goes, you never asked them at the end what they found helpful.
Oh, yes.
And so the reason I'm bringing that up is because you and I can have this conversation and think, oh, we're being so helpful to the people, our listeners. But if they don't communicate back to us and tell us that your stuff is horrible or your stuff is great,
what do we know?
We don't know how helpful we're really being. We're just assuming we're great at this stuff. So
we're having fun.
Hey, we'll take either. Compliments are great. Tell the world. If we're not so good, tell us, because we can't get better if you don't tell us anyway. So we want to know. If it's helpful to you, let us know. Tell us what would be more helpful. Give us a topic. Say something to us like, hey, I want to know more about this. This would be helpful, because then guess what? I'll bring it to you. We'll serve it up. I love it. Yeah. Let us help you. Help us help you. What was that Jerry Maguire thing? Yeah. Not show me the money. What was the other one? Help me help you, or help
It's been a long time since I've seen Jerry Maguire.
That's an old movie. There was something like help me help you, or I don't remember something. I don't know what movie.
I think it is that one. He's like,
I thought it was too.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you go look at the YouTube clip and comments, let us know.
I want to thank everyone for being here as well. And you guys, if you're already following us on Instagram or Facebook, we really appreciate that. Hope you'll continue to do so. We love you guys. Keep moving forward. Thanks for being here.